Many of you may not know this, but those folks who died from COVID, who were 70 or 72, they were probably going to get paid about another 10 years on their pension. All that money goes back into government coffers. And at the same time, on the Medicaid side, about 50% of your lifetime medical costs are borne in your last 2 years of life. So there is an argument to be made that killing off a whole bunch of senior citizens saves the state a lot of money. We'll look into that a little more. But someone who knows the medical game inside and out, he's joined us before, a great guest. Dr. Dennis Deruelle joins us right now. He's a physician, he's a practicing hospitalist, and more importantly, he's the author of your healthcare playbook, Winning the Game of Modern Medicine. Doc, I don't know if you heard my, informal hypothesis, but it sure seems to me that there could have been some incentive to our state government to put seniors' lives in danger by sending them back to nursing homes. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back. Number one, wow, I hope that's certainly not the case. I will say this. I mean, you've drawn the parallel. My take on this is you absolutely should not be sending anyone back to a nursing home that's not proven negative from COVID. I mean, we have doctors in my practice across in 19 states, 2,000 doctors. I mean, we are not sending anyone back until we have negative. In fact, sometimes 2 negatives, as you know, because the testing can be inconsistent. So I think it's unconscionable to send people back to nursing homes, given the data. We know the data. When you get one person in a nursing home that has it, it spreads. We know that. We've seen that on cruise ships. We've seen it in nursing homes. I mean, I think it's pretty clear. And we need to set up, what they've done in Massachusetts. You've set up facilities that are COVID-only facilities that are like this, and that's what we have to do.
So let me just point this out to you, and I'm not asking you to go along with my theory. I think there's got to be something more to just typical common sense. If we know this thing kills old people, and we know it's highly transmittive, then why send someone with it back into a home full of old people, right? But at the same time, right? Andrew Cuomo was screaming and yelling that we need more beds, we don't have enough beds, and that's why he said he sent people back to the nursing homes. Trump, I think, actually called his bluff and sent the big Navy ship Hospitality up here. And it turns out that not one person ever went on that Navy ship, but yet he sent thousands of people back to the nursing homes. So it doesn't measure, it's counterintuitive to me.
Yeah, I agree. I was struck by the fact that that ship was not used, and it was intended to be used for non-COVID patients, allegedly, to free up beds. But, I mean, if it were me, I would have maybe sent patients there that were going to go to a nursing home but weren't quite ready to go back to their normal setting. And that would have been, I think, a decent place to do it. So I might have repurposed that ship, and I certainly wouldn't have sent people to nursing homes. I mean, they are the majority of the people that are dying from COVID.
No doubt. And Doc, I know we got to get to the European Union, but I want to just ask you one other thing. I've been doing a lot of reading on the COVID and how it was treated. And I read a very interesting article where a doctor, I think he was an Italian doctor, he was talking about how the COVID, when it was in the lungs, it was inflaming the inner walls. And when the inner walls of the lungs get inflamed and get thicker, it takes away area inside the lungs. So there was less room for air. And people who didn't know how to short breathe would get very nervous and anxiety. And this doctor had posited that the absolute worst thing you can do to these people is put a ventilator on them and force more air into their lungs because there's not enough room for more air in their lungs. And it seems that 80% of the people that went on respirators died. Do you think the respirators could have had a negative effect or a multiplying effect on this thing?
Well, let's break that down in a couple ways. So I agree with you and this physician. that it is the virus is driving an immune response, and that immune response, although it's meant to kill the virus, is also attacking our body. And it's doing it in the little air sacs and in the little blood vessels that are in our lungs. So he is right. They're filling up with fluid, and they're being destroyed. The architecture of the lung is being destroyed. So agree with that. That's why a study that came out last week, we've been doing this since day one. If you treat patients with steroids, dexamethasone, it actually reduced the chance of death by a third in patients on ventilators. So I will agree that that's part of the problem. I will agree that we now have a solution that seems to help. It's not 100%, but it's certainly helping. Now, in terms of ventilators, hey, when people need them and they can't breathe, they come in handy. So a ventilator in and of itself is very good, and it probably helps many people. However, I think that early on we were putting too many patients on ventilators. For my doctors, I advised wait, use oxygen and avoid the ventilator, and let's see if we can get away without using it. And our mortality, so from my practice, American Physician Partners, we had 500 cases at least, probably over now, and our mortality was 11%. Some of them, many of them, not all, but many of them were on ventilators. So probably about 30%. And so our numbers were better. I think that you need the ventilator when you need it, but if you can avoid it, you should avoid it. We have some new treatments that will help this problem that you mentioned, which is our immune system attacking the lungs. And there's no doubt that New York and Italy had the highest rate of death on ventilators, but I think some of New York was the system being a little bit overwhelmed too.
Got it. All right, in our final couple of minutes here, now we're hearing about spikes all across the country. I kind of attribute, me personally, I attribute that to, of course, there's more testing, so we're going to see more cases. In the European Union, they're talking about reopening borders. They're saying Americans are not welcome. And they're all racing now to agree on who can visit July 1. Does it make sense for anybody from the U.S. to get into international travel right now?
No. I mean, first of all, I don't blame the Europeans. Why? We wanted to cut off travel for them to our country. Why? I can't blame them. Number two, if you're going to go there on vacation, you're not going to do 14 days of quarantine before you do your vacation. You're going to have to be there for 30 days. So it's just not practical right now. We weren't even doing the kind of screening we needed to do from Spain, from Italy into New York when we should have shut that down sooner. So, look, I don't begrudge what they're doing. We have the most number of cases in the world. We're at high risk. It just doesn't make sense to travel right now, in my opinion, over to Europe.
Got it. And by the way, from someone like myself who's lived abroad, the last thing you want to do is get caught in some European country with American health insurance and then get admitted to the hospital. Your prospects are probably worse. Let's stay close to home where we have some of the best hospital systems around. Hey, Doc, thank you so much. We got to have you back soon. You're the man. Thanks for joining us.
Take care. Anytime. Bye,
That's
John.
right. That's Dr. Dennis Deruelle. He's the author of Your Healthcare Playbook, Winning the Game of Modern Medicine. I am going to take a short break here. I am going to slug down the rest of this White Claw on this commercial break. I'm going to talk to the Facebook audience. If you're watching on Biz TV and you want to hear some real zaniness that goes on behind the scenes during the commercials, you can always tune into Facebook at Liquid Lunch TV. And we're even working with our boss, Scott Miller, over at Biz TV on maybe putting some radio out for you. So all that and more right after this.